Hi there, thank you for watching. If you have not already subscribed, please subscribe. It really helps the channel to thrive and to grow. It's also completely free. Thank you. So, Neptune in Trump's chart in 2024. Before I get to that, I'm going to give you some background on what this planet is doing in his natal chart, by where it is in the sign order, as well as the different connections to other planets. And I will also talk a little bit about where it was in 2016 and 2020, because that throws a lot of light on the situation. So in his chart, it's in the third sign. The third sign is where you find information, data, records. It's because the third sign is the natural place of Gemini, which is the place for all those things. In his case, it's Libra, whereas Neptune is, but it's still the same application. So news, information, data. You could also think of any kind of selling and advocating is there as well. And such things as names and naming. And you can begin to see that all these themes are central in his life. In the current situation we're in, you can really see the also the talking, speaking, messaging, which is what he does 24 hours a day. He tries to control the message. He talks and repeats and crafts the message, and he's very skillful at, in a sense, imposing his point of view on reality. Not on everyone, obviously. Not on me, and almost certainly not on you if you're watching this video. But certainly on people that are, following the MAGA playbook. On those people, he certainly is having this effect on a pretty massive scale. So, but you can consider the other topics, such as, for instance, the names and naming, another third sign topic. He built a lot of his business licensing his name, and this was the thing until now. Now it's tarnished, diminished, so it's not working so well anymore. But in past years, that was definitely a factor. Records, you saw what he did with the records. Indeed, he built his presidency, his first presidency, was through attacking an opponent on their records, and then, as he often does, manufactures the karma for himself, took the records home, and even though Judge Cannon dismissed that case is coming back. He's not getting away with that one. It'll just take longer for it to happen. And so all these themes are part of the third sign. When you think of selling, he's like a natural born salesman, although he's like a used car salesman trying to sell you a car that you don't want. And this leads you into the key meaning of Neptune on the low end, because on the high end, Neptune is very spiritual, but these planets, just like everything in astrology, planets, signs, angles, aspects, everything has a high end and a low end. Indeed, astrology is really not just your fate, it's the interaction of your will with your fate. That's far more important to understand, meaning that a chart is there as a potential, and without knowing what a person is doing with it, you can't really read it properly. So it's the art of figuring out how to best express your planets. Now the thing with him is that he tends to express everything on the lowest possible end, and Neptune is one of those which he completely corrupts. So even though on the high end, the most spiritual planet, connected to social justice, connected to helping others in any way possible, compassion, etc., you start descending, and at the bottom end you find total corruption through deception, gaslighting. All the con men are Neptune people. I've seen quite a few crime shows where a con man is being described, exposed, etc. And if I can get a birth date, I'll find the Neptune every time. And this is what Trump does, and he does constantly. It's also the whole notion of lying and deceiving, and he is absolutely pathological in this respect. Now, this planet, it turns out, it's in the third sign, but it was very, very stationary at birth. And when planets are stationary, meaning they're about to go retrograde or go direct, they gain a lot of power. So they become very dominant in a chart. And this, in a sense, describes his whole life. A further meaning of Neptune that is not always bad, but can definitely become bad, is the notion of celebrity and projecting yourself on camera and on TV, because Neptune rules film. Indeed, Neptune was discovered in the 1860s, concurrent with recordings were coming online, were being discovered. So recordings on cassette, on tape, not cassette yet, but tape at the time. Cassette came later, but film, photographs, all of those things are Neptunian. Well, all of this is his life, basically, because he's a TV celebrity. He's constantly either watching TV or appearing on TV. All of it is that projection of self. But the entire, thing that he does around the constant lies, the constant deception, all of that is Neptune as well. Now, this planet, in 2016, assisted him into getting into the presidency, because at the time it was trining his Mercury. And Neptune, in addition to all these things that I've mentioned, is also the most useful around popularity, because it's, in a sense, what the populace, what the group of people that follow you project through you, and they turn you into an idol, so to speak. And celebrity can be very good. If a person enjoys celebrity and they do good works, it's wonderful. It gives them a platform. In his case, as we all know, it's a very dangerous platform that he exploits. So back in 2016, Neptune is trining Mercury. It was very helpful to get him in, even though there were all kinds of other planet angles where any good astrologer would have said to him, whoa, are you sure you want to do this? Because this becomes really rough sailing. You have a little bit of an entry point here, but this is not a good plan. He should have stayed out of it, in other words, but he went in, and now he's really complicated his life. So then we fast forward to 2020. By then, Neptune had moved forward so that it was squaring his sun and moon, and that led to his loss in 2020, among quite a few other planets, but certainly Neptune was part of that problem in 2020. And now in 2024, Neptune has moved further forward still. Now it's at the very end of the sign in Pisces. Now, the other thing about Pisces is that in his chart, it's the 8th sign, which is the house of death. It's also the house of insurance, of taxes, of other people's money. You've already seen Neptune in there contribute to the terrible problems he's experienced around big payouts due to insurance fraud, tax fraud, banking fraud. All of that is the 8th sign, so hence the Neptune. So we've seen that. But the death house, you want to be careful with a planet in there. You've heard me say this repeatedly. It's definitely dangerous. And so now at the very end of the sign, instead of connecting to the sun and moon, it's moved forward. It's to his Mars and to his ascendant. Those are, Mars and ascendant are in the late Leo degrees. And so Neptune from Pisces is doing a 150. It's called the quincunx, or the inconjunct. That's primarily a health/death aspect. And if not that, it's a difficult aspect. It's hard to adjust to it. It correlates with circumstances that are not well aligned, and irrespective of health and death topics, it is not going to help you win to have Neptune in that particular location of the chart. Now the thing is, for him, if he gets to the other side of this, and I'll let you fill in the blanks as to what that might mean, but Neptune is going to go into Aries next, a little bit next year, and then completely in 2026 when it enters Aries. It's been in Pisces since 2011. It has a 165-year orbit, so this planet takes about 13, 14 years per sign to do the full orbit. It'll be in Aries until 2038, I believe. The thing for Trump, though, is that leaving Pisces is no better, because Aries, once it enters Aries, it makes its way to his infamous T-squared, what I've called in various places the Access Hollywood T-square because it came up back in 2016 through a Mars trigger and brought in that whole thing, grab him by the pee and all that stuff, which was something that sits there as a really bad bit of news for him, even though back then he was able to get around that too. It's still there as a factor. In fact, it showed up in a recent trial in which he was convicted in. The point being, though, that Neptune will be going into that region for years. And that region, among other things, once again as well, relates to legalities in the law and, criminal cases, etc. So fill in the blanks, that's not a good thing either. But in the meantime, in 2024, late Pisces, even next year, still doing its thing in late Pisces, in a place that is very compromised. And so we can add that one as well to the array of planets that are making things very difficult for him this year and into the election period.